Facebook, checking in. Okay. So before we start talking today about boundaries, okay, I need to ask you if you can hear me on Facebook. I ask you that every time, but I want to make sure. So if you can hear me, could you please type I can hear you in the comments? Or you could say, tell me where you're watching from, actually. Are you in New York, Mississippi, Florida, Texas, Seattle? Shout out to Seattle. Um, Let me know. Oh, also, if you are on Facebook, um, if you want me to see your name, because I just saw you type yes. I only see Facebook user because you have to go to the comment, like the description of this video, and give me permission to see your name. Otherwise, the whole time I'm going to have to call you Facebook user because I won't be able to see your name. So where you're watching this video, the description, right? Go to that, click the StreamYard link, and it says, give Rika permission to see your name. Could you do that for me, please? Please. So that way I see you're watching from New York. That's dope. Shout out to New York. So please go ahead and do that. And then as you're doing that, I'm going to do this. How good are you at setting boundaries? And hopefully I spelled everything right because Lord knows that spelling is not my talent. So what up, Sandra? Am I allowed to say congratulations to you, Sandra? I don't want to put you on blast or embarrass you, but if I'm allowed to say, you know what I'm talking about. Let me know, okay? Is it Suez? Suez? Suez. That's Suez, right? Suez. So I can say, shout out to Sandra. She made the decision to sign up for Single You Academy, and I am honored that I get to be your coach, that we are going to start a bond that is like no other. And we're going to, if you're watching and you're like, what is Single You Academy? Don't you worry. We are going to be talking about that as well as obviously boundaries. We're going to talk about that first. Susie. Okay. So now that I know everybody can hear me, I'm excited for today. I'm excited for today. Listen, you are going to be able to be a fly on the wall with the conversations that me and my best friend Desiree have. Okay. This one in particular is going to be all about setting boundaries, because I know that most of you who are in my DMs, most of you that are in my Singleness is Not a Punishment Facebook group are like, listen, Rika, I've tried to set boundaries with men, but I feel mean when I do it. Rika, I've tried to set boundaries with men, my boyfriend, but when I do, he gets upset. So how do I set boundaries? How do I get more clear on setting a boundary for what I want? Because I want you comfortable in any situation, boyfriend, parents, kids, co-workers, what have you. Obviously, we're going to be talking in the context of men relationships, you and man relationships right now, because that's what I do as the Single Girls Life Coach. So without further ado, I am going to bring Miss Desiree Rose in the room right now. Okay, so funny enough, we're actually in the same room. So, and we're also on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, you're not going to be able to see the slides, but you can totally hang out. For the past 2 days I've been going on Instagram, and y'all been hanging out. So totally hang out. So Desiree Rose, welcome to the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, Sandra, Susie, can you hear Desiree? We just got to make sure that everything is working. We are in the same room, so we have the computer mics off, or the speakers off, and the mics on. So we're just making sure that this is actually working, because being in the same room, we would have echoed. It would have been a like annoying echo. So can you hear Desiree? Desiree, say hi.
Hi. Can you hear me? Am I echoey? Okay.
Oh, so is it a bad echo on your part, Sandra? So, it is a bad echo. Okay. So maybe.
What if we, like when you talk, like mine's muted, and when I talk,
yeah, we're gonna have to do that. Yeah. Okay. So how about this? So Desiree, talk.
Hello. 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 Can you hear me?
So when I'm talking, is it now echoey? I just want to make sure. I just want to do this little homework first before we start class, I guess. Oh, guess who's watching? Anthony. Oh, hello,
Anthony's
Anthony.
watching?
Yes, he's on Twitter because I'm live on Twitter too. So let me know if it's echoey right now, and then what we'll do if it's not, because I don't think it would be. Then we'll just have to have no echo now. Okay, we fixed it. Perfect. I keep forgetting there's a delay, so we have to like. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, let's talk about how we know each other first.
Okay.
How do we know each other, Des? Do you remember?
So we met at a like women in business gathering for the Tri-Cities. It was called the Cornucopia, and I was really nervous because I do not feel like a professional businesswoman. I feel like a very unprofessional, like klutz tripping through life. And so getting invited to this thing, I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. So me and my other friend, Haley, we went and got like a couple of drinks beforehand. And then we showed up like super late. And everyone was sitting at this like long table. But you were at Faith's lingerie thing. You were modeling for it.
Oh, for Philly Cali.
For Philly Cali. So you showed up late too. And everybody was already kind of like talking in their groups. And so that's where I met Evelyn. That's where I met you. And I came up and started talking to you. And then we just hit it off. I gave you a free makeover card. And you were like, I'll come in, but you're not touching my hair.
I did. Okay, hold on. Pause. I did not say that. I may have looked it, but I didn't say that, right?
Hold on. I think you said something along the lines of like, well, like, let's set it up and do a consultation and see how that goes. Because, and I don't take it personal. Literally, Elena, the first time that I met her, I was telling her I do curly hair, and she was like, we'll see if you do curly hair. I'll know within the first couple of minutes if you do curly hair.
Right. So, okay.
Wait, are you unmuted?
There we go. Okay. In my look at you, you're good at the mic. I'm gonna let you run your own mic. Okay, so in my defense, so obviously it's no secret, I'm Black. Desiree is white. I've never let a white girl touch my hair. So I was like, we gonna see. And what, 3 years later, 4 years later, how long have we been friends? Jeez.
Yeah, it's been.
Yeah.
At least three and a half, 4.
She actually has helped me with my curly hair journey because these curls were not healthy when I first met Desiree, because I had just started trying to go back to curly after straightening my hair since birth, basically. I mean, thank God I had the mom who didn't let me get a relaxer until junior high. And even at that, it was only for school pictures and Christmas. And that was it. Like, she was like, we're not doing that. Yeah. We're not doing that, because she didn't really get them. Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't have the creamy crack my whole life, as that's what we call it.
It's just so bad for your skin and hair. So.
Right. Exactly. So I went back to that. So that's how we met. And through the 3-4 years that we've known each other, we've had many, 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 many serious and deep conversations, especially because when I met you, was I just getting out of that abusive relationship, or was I?
Yes, you were just getting out of it. It was before the $10,000 boyfriend.
Yeah.
But it was right after your abusive ex. I was single, and I had been single for years. I was celibate. I had been celibate for like 2 years already, I feel like, or like a year and a half or something like that. And you were newly celibate. And so we kind of like started our whole singleness journey. We were kind of going through it together. I was like a couple years in already, but I had a lot more like baggage than you. So we were kind of like right in sync, like working through our trauma and what we'd been through together. So it was really cool.
We had a lot to talk about.
I would say like almost all of our conversations are at one point deep. Like, they're never shallow.
Yeah, exactly. Because honestly, I don't even know your favorite color. What's your favorite color?
I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
I like them all in different circumstances.
Okay. Now I don't feel like a bad friend, because yeah, all of our conversations are deep. And I remember I told you the other day, the basis of our conversation, the foundation of our friendship is how I'm moving forward forever now
Yeah.
with friendships
Yeah.
because I've never, let me not say never. It's been a while, especially living where we live, having a friend like you. One where I can feel like I can tell her everything and I can ask her questions. There's going to be no judgment and we're just going to talk through it and we're just going to talk it out. And I hope you feel the same.
I do. And you know what? It's so funny that we're talking about this when we're talking about boundaries, because I don't think a lot of people realize that having boundaries in romantic relationships, it goes beyond that. It's having boundaries in relationships, period. And I know for me, I had a lot of toxic friendships because I I never set boundaries. I remember my friend Taylor, she was the first friend I've ever had who set a boundary with me in a very respectful way. And at first it like hurt my feelings because I wasn't used to people doing that. But she was like, hey, I don't want to pick your kids up from school. Don't call me for that.
I'm glad you see, because you know, I'm gonna be like, okay, give me an example, because you know I love examples.
And I was like, she doesn't want to pick up my kids from school. And then I was like, well, they're not her kids. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not an unreasonable request. She's not saying like, fuck you, I don't want to be, she's not talking behind my back. She's not, sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. She's not saying anything like that.
Pause. Hold on. I'm a cussing Christian. Now I don't do it every other word. I'm not foul like that, but every once in a while you'll hear me be like, look, I don't even want to say it. But I don't get mad when people cuss around me. I know people are like, oh, I'm sorry, Rika, you're the Christian. Da, da, da. I'm like, I don't care. Okay, finish your story.
Yeah, but basically, she set up a boundary and I was like, wow, I've never had anybody be upfront with me about something. Usually they'll be like, okay. And then they'll be like, oh my God, Desiree is so like always having me pick up our kids, So it was so refreshing that I was like, whoa, I've never had that. I like this. And her and I are still friends. And I think that's why like our friendship is so good, because we have boundaries, we support each other, we love each other. Like if you were to ever like lash out at me or say something mean to me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, Rika, are you okay? Are you having like a bad day or something? Like I wouldn't be like mad or any, like it's mutual.
Yeah. Cause I think, I know that, and I need to take notes. Cause you said some things and I'm like, oh my God, I have to remember to bring that up. So hopefully I can remember, or I'll try to take notes here on my computer, cause I put all my pens up because we had to make room for the table. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do is, so with you, Des, like I think it's so funny how time runs together as you get older. But I do know I got out of that abusive relationship in early July of 2017, because it was right around my birthday. And when I got out of that relationship, he called me everything under the sun but a child of God. I was sneaky. I couldn't be trusted. And one of the things that he would always say to me is that I was a bad friend. He was like, that's why your phone don't ring. Nobody calls you. Ain't nobody texting you. You a bad friend. You ain't got no friends. You ain't even close with your parents. If I had parents like you did growing up, I would be like X, Y, and Z. And because I'm an introvert, and these are things that I didn't know about myself back then, I know them now because I've done the work. And I'm very processed. But I didn't know this back then, but yes, I'm an introvert and I keep to myself. Like I've been born that way. Ask my mom. I've always been like, I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna just go to Safeway. I'm gonna just walk down the street. I'm gonna just go by myself. I lived in New York by myself. I wanted to go to Howard University. I went by myself. I've always been a loner. And I've always struggled with that because I thought that did make me a bad friend. So then when I'm in this relationship and he's telling me that left and right, I am thinking I am a terrible friend. Mind you, I have never had a friend tell me I was a bad friend, but I'm believing this man because this trauma bonding, codependency, narcissism that he had was washed over me because I was the girl who was trying to make a relationship work, to prove that I was a good woman, to prove to society that I was worthy to be loved by a man, to prove to society that I could get married. Because at that time, when I got in that relationship, I was 32, I think, about to be 38 in June. How old was I in 2017? And then how old was I in 2015? Somebody do the math. But anyway, so I got into that relationship And those are the things that I was thinking, well, I have to make this work because I'm attracted to him. He's attracted to me. My vagina says I like him. So, okay, let's make it work. And he's saying these things to me. So I intentionally, when I got out of that relationship, and, I went on my trip to Mexico, and there were questions that I asked myself, and we'll probably talk about that coming up, but I just want to get to my point. I said, I now get to define who Rika is, period. Yeah. So I literally wrote out what makes a good friend. And the things that I wrote out, I make sure that I'm that to Des. I make sure that I'm that to like Lori. I picked like probably five people to be really good friends with. And everybody else is associates. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying I'm not Drake with no new friends or whatever, but I wanted to be intentional with my friendships, and I didn't exactly know how it was going to work, but I knew that I wanted to be the one that defined it from now on.
It's so, you make so many good points. One of the things that, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can have friendships like that. Like with Rika and I know Rika's love language is acts of service. So it's okay if we don't talk to each other for an entire week or 2 weeks, but I always try to make sure, like, if you ask me for a favor, if I can, I'm going to do it because I know that's how I tell you that I care about you and that you receive that as Des cares about me. Yeah. Like, that's your love language. And it's so important because you will, like, you have friends that are not self-aware will try to like make you fill needs for them. Yeah. That without any like rhyme or reason or regard for you, and they don't understand why. And so then they put these like expectations on you. We don't really do that for each other. And like, if one of us has something come up or whatever, there's no like, I've never been mad at you. You've never been mad at that I know of. No, like, you can have healthy friendships too. Like this single you is so beautiful in the way that like, it doesn't just change your romantic relationships, it changes all of them. Because it's not building relationships with other people, it's building that relationship with yourself. And then that just expands outward. Like you know how to interact with other people.
Yes. And hold on. You are okay. Yes. So you're so right. So Single You Academy is definitely about that. It is about the relationship with yourself because that's the most important relationship that you can have. And then all of your other relationships extend from that. So the healthier you are with yourself in relationship to self, the healthier you are with other people, yeah. Friendships, parents, kids, romantic partners. And so I want to get to that part. There was a time where I didn't know you. And you had other relationships other than the one that I know you are in now, which I believe is super healthy. You guys, I just want to throw up. Was there a time, and I know the answer is yes, but let's unpack this. Yeah. Was there a time where you were really bad at boundaries?
Yes.
What comes up for you when I ask you that question?
I never had boundaries. And I think this happens with a lot of people like me. If you grow up in a household with very like authoritative parents, you learn how to respect other people's boundaries. So you're always worried about the other person's boundaries, but you never learn how to put them up for yourself. So I had zero boundaries for myself, but was always very hyper aware of everybody else's around me. And so my romantic relationships mimicked my home life, which was fairly abusive. And so my first major relationship, and really my only major relationship, was my marriage. I was married. And it was extremely dysfunctional, no boundaries. Neither one of us had boundaries, but he was definitely more he had a lot of issues, and it definitely affected everything. But he cheated. I believe he was a narcissist. He's a narcissist. He was very abusive. Like, he locked me out of the house one time when I was pregnant overnight.
Oh my goodness.
He would do random things like steal all the blankets at night, so I'd be there cold.
Oh my God.
And sleep cold.
Yeah.
It was violent sometimes, you know, it ended extremely bad. But I didn't have boundaries. I didn't know how to put boundaries. I would try to,
Yeah.
and then he would just bulldoze over them.
So okay. So you said something, and I'm gonna yell at my dogs real quick, everybody. Thor, champ. Look, these are the pups. Go lay down. Hi. Okay, my shadows. Go lay down. Go. Good boy. Good boy. Go lay down. Because they get, especially Thor, he's, I guess, still a puppy because he's a little bit over a year old.
Yeah, he's a puppy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's unpack this. Okay. So before you had met him,
yeah,
what was your idea of relationships? Because right, exactly. Because I have this theory, and it's really facts. We don't get education around relationships. We don't get education around, you need to discover who you are. It's a Drake song, and it's a nice song. Know yourself, know your worth. Sure. But what does that mean, right? And so I know that you also didn't have that education. So yeah, so what was your thought process going into that relationship?
Honestly, so my family's thought process around relationships is super weird. Like, they have all been married and divorced multiple times. So going into relationships, that was just a reality for me. That was normal. So going into my marriage, going into any relationship, I just had this like mindset. Like, I actually used to have this thing that I would say, which is so toxic, but I'm I'm very humorous.
Yeah.
And so I would say, oh, well, my first husband's going to be, you know, I'm going to marry him for love. And then my second one is going to be for a rebound. My third one's going to be for money. Like, I would joke around like, oh, I'm going to have all these, you know, like each time I get married and da-da-da.
Yeah.
My parents actually really put like such a high, like, to them, getting married was a financial thing. Like, marry someone who has money, marry someone who has like a career. Like, it was never centered around marry someone who respects you, marry someone who loves you. There was education, but it was all like really, really bad education.
Yeah.
And
That's
extremely toxic. So I literally remember on our wedding day, and the wedding pictures are so funny, like literally hilarious. And we look like we're about to throw up. And I remember thinking, while we're signing the papers, I know we're going to get divorced.
Oh God.
I know we are. I wish someone would have told me what that looks like, because it's been an odyssey and it's been terrible, because getting out of a marriage is so hard.
Yeah.
But I remember signing the papers and thinking like, well, you know, we were playing relationship chicken. And when you play relationship chicken, everybody loses. Nobody wins.
Oh God.
We had kids together. We should never have kids together.
Yeah.
We were married. We should never got married. Like, we should never been together, period.
Yeah.
But I mean, we love our children. We have 2 beautiful children, but I have to deal with this person for the rest of my life now. I can't undo that.
Yeah.
And it's something that has followed me even to this day. Financially,
I know. Yeah.
Emotionally, I'm still dealing with it. You know, unfortunately, the decisions we make in our past, they follow us forever. So
I want to, and trust me, this story ends beautifully. Okay. As of today. As where Des is today. And so we're gonna connect the dots here, right? Mm-hmm. Because she grew up in a dysfunctional household, and I grew up in a very loving household. My parents been married for over 40 years. They're beautiful, but they disgust me because they still kiss and they still hold hands, and it's actually very pretty. And in my journey, I realized that I was like idolizing that, and I wanted that, but I also did not have the conversations. So where you were learning dysfunction, because yes, you learn, like everybody is an example of either what to do or what not to do. But we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know what we're watching, if it's what not to do or whatever, if we're not having this education, right?
Yeah.
And so me coming up, seeing this beautiful marriage, I was like, okay, well, I want that, but I didn't know how to I didn't know how to apply. And I couldn't just copy paste, right? But I thought I could. So once I hit 30 and I wasn't my mom, because by 30, my mom had me and my older brother. I was like, my life sucks because I'm not my mom. And I looked just like her. I thought that I had to be her. Yeah. I mean, I idolized that situation. So when I created Single You Academy, I was like, even if I, from a 2-parent household, could still fall short and unfortunately be in an abusive relationship, what about the women who didn't even grow up like I did? And so that's essentially how, after I went on this healing and got certified as a life coach and everything, how Single You Academy came about, because I was like, I need to save the world. Now I'm kind of calmed down and I'm like, listen, God, send me the women that are my assignments. And I understand that. So I just wanted to put a pin in that. My next question to you, while you were in that relationship, because I heard you say that you wanted to set boundaries, you just didn't. What boundaries do you think you wanted to set, but you didn't? And why do you feel like you didn't set them?
I mean, when it comes to boundaries, it's all about follow through, because a boundary, everybody wants to set boundaries. Everybody does set boundaries at one point or another, but it's not an actual boundary if you don't have any sort of follow through consequences for that, for like crossing that boundary. And especially with somebody who just doesn't respect boundaries. So with my ex, like when we would get into conflict or whatever, like for cheating, I know that's like a big one. So he cheated so much. He cheated with like long-term relationships. He had like a 5-year affair. He had Craigslist postings.
Stop it.
Yeah, like, yes, it was crazy, like the amount of cheating. And I would find out about it and I'd be like, this is it. I'm done. I said, don't cheat. I said, don't, just respect me. He would obviously not listen. And like, I think for a lot of women, when we date out of necessity, because especially if you're coming from a dysfunctional household, you're just trying to get out of it. And so for me, I wanted to leave. I knew I wanted to leave literally day one. I remember I had sex with him and I was like, I literally told him, I do not want to date you. I don't make this a thing.
Yeah.
And I just it's, narcissists, they hoover you in, like you get sucked in.
Yeah.
I got knocked up. Like it was one of those situations.
Wait, pause. You're saying even before you were married, you were like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
And then you got pregnant. Do you think that's why you got married?
No, I don't. I think I chose to have a child. I chose to get married. I chose to be with this person because I was trying to get away from like the dysfunctional family that I had, because I needed out. Yeah. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to fix myself. I was looking for that Prince Charming. I wanted to move away and have a life together. Yeah. And then once you get so far deep in, if there was ever a point in my life where I felt like I had a safe place to land, I would have gone way sooner. And like, that's why it takes women getting beat to the point where they're almost dead to go to a homeless shelter. There's no support for women in abusive. There's no support for single mothers. So it's really, really tough to leave those types of situations. I was stuck in that situation because I literally had no choice. I felt like I had no choice. Yeah. It was either that, like be with this man and in this situation, or go be with my abusive parents who I didn't feel safe with either.
First of all, I want to say this. You're so right. There's no safe place to land. There's not a lot of support for single mothers, which you're going to change that with. I know you have a dream.
Yeah, I do.
Not a lot of support. I know I don't want to diminish things like domestic violence shelters and stuff like that. But even let's remove the abuse. For you watching, you're a single woman, right? And you're not necessarily fleeing a dysfunctional family life or whatever. But how many of you think that being single is the thing that you need to flee? So then you're trying to force yourself into these relationships because you're like, well, I can't be single because that's the worst thing to be on this earth. Because society, Christianity, and I'm a Christian, but I am very critical of Christians. So Christianity, society makes you feel like being single makes you the scum of the earth, means God doesn't love you as much as he loves married women, especially if you're a woman who doesn't have kids. And I don't have any kids, I'm 37. And I can say this, and it's coming from my heart, not a place of judgment, because I was there. So I want you to hear this. Like, that was so deep when you said, like, I just was trying to flee. And I understand you needing this safe place to land. So again, how dare you who are single and you are safe in your own home and you're fine and you're still trying to flee singleness as if singleness is a season you just have to get through.
I think a lot of people, being single is uncomfortable because we're never taught how to be single.
Yeah.
And so just like anything, it's like a reaction. Like if you're uncomfortable, you want to get out of it. And, you know, I think that's why, you know, like for people who've been through dysfunction, you end up going into another dysfunctional relationship. I remember thinking I had to be with somebody who had been through something because I didn't know how to relate to people who hadn't. I didn't even know anyone who hadn't, really.
So deep.
You know, and so, and I really didn't even, I've never seen a happy relationship. So it felt normal. I know I didn't want it. I know I didn't like it. I wanted to get out of it. And I did. The only reason why I left my ex was because he was working a lot. I didn't see him a lot. So I was able for the first time in our relationship to make friends. And so I made friends, and my friends saved me. They got me out of this relationship.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for my friends, I would have stayed. You know, and it was only because he was working literally like every day except for 2 days out of the week.
Yeah.
And he was working like 16-hour days because he was in the oil field. So that was the only reason why I was able to leave, because for the first time in my life, I had money and I had friends. And that all quickly, like the friends stayed, but the money went away. But I still felt like if you have that emotional support, you feel empowered to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And these were dysfunctional friends, but they still helped me out of it. So
right.
Yeah, that is beautiful and deep that you can say, you know, because I got friends, I was able to leave. Because here's the thing, when we're being treated badly, we know it's bad. We know it, right? Everybody knows it. Nobody said it. If you're a 12-year-old girl, I'm like, what kind of relationship do you want grown up? You're gonna be like, I want him to be sweet and nice, and I want him to be like the Disney movies. You're not gonna be like, I want this dysfunctional BS. There we go. Yep. You're not gonna be like, I want this dysfunctional. Nobody says that, right? Everybody wants happiness. But the problem is, again, there's no education around what is the difference between healthy hard versus dysfunctional versus abusive? What is the difference between a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy relationship? Those conversations aren't happening. So when you're in it, you think, oh, you know what? I can change him, or this is just the hard, because a lot of married people love to say, oh, marriage is hard, but they never explain the hard. So you think, oh, this is just a rough patch. We'll get through this. We'll get through it. Yeah. So, okay, the next thing that I wanted to ask you was, because a lot of we as single women do this as well, whether we're married or whatever, just we as women, when we're very bad at setting boundaries. I love how you said, let's unpack this more, that you were very hyper aware of everybody else's boundaries. So you knew like what to do, what not to do, so you didn't piss them off or whatever. So I'm gonna not do this. Unpack that. Because we do that a lot where actually, before Des talks, I'll tell you this story. So I had this Michael Kors purse that I freaking loved. And still to this day, I cannot find it. I can't find it in stores anymore. But anyway, it was this cute little mini bag, and it was a purse that an ex gave me. When I got with this abusive ex, I was on air because I'm a radio personality in the city that I live in, for those of you who don't know. And I used to do the morning show, stepped down in September to focus on Single You Academy and being a coach. But anyway, on air, the topic was, do I have to get rid of everything my ex gave me because of my new boyfriend? And I was like, girl, no, I still got this Michael Kors purse, blah, 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 blah. Here go my abusive ex. That's when my phone started blowing up. And he thought it was disrespectful that I still had things that an ex gave me. This is not a love letter. This is not a rose that I dried up and kept. This is nothing. It is a purse. Right. It is a Michael Kors purse. It is a very functional, tangible thing that when I look at it, I'm not like, oh, look what my ex got me. But because I was not aware of what I wanted or who I was, I caved. And when he was like, well, if you really love me, you would get rid of that purse, I did it. I didn't know how to set the boundary, but I was very aware of his boundaries. So I love that you said that, because obviously back then I wouldn't have explained it like this, but I knew that I wanted him to stop being mad. And I knew that if I did this, then for that moment, everything would be okay. And I just always thought the more that he asked me, the more that I did. And I just always thought, oh, that he'll just calm down and he'll see, like, I'm not this.
There'll be a point that you reach.
Go ahead.
There'll be a point that you reach that you've proven yourself now, because you did everything he said, and he's saying he can't trust you, but you've done all the things he asked, but they just keep raising the bar because it's unhealthy, right?
Yeah. And it's called he was being controlling and manipulative. Because anytime anybody says that to you, that is not healthy.
No.
If you do this, this means you love me.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I was always hyper aware of everybody else's boundaries, because I was, I grew up in a dysfunctional home. And so the adults were very emotionally just all over the place. And they had a lot of boundaries for us kids. And we were told to respect them. And then kids were kind of, we weren't really allowed to have our own personalities, our own boundaries or anything. So that's just how I was programmed. I was literally programmed to be concerned and take care of everybody else. I took care of my younger brothers. I took care of my parents. I took care of their animals, everything. So when I got out into life, I didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't have a personality. Everything was based off of how can I make everybody else around me happy? Because that's how I've been taught what being a human looks like. I wanted what everybody else did, but I didn't understand why they would get upset with me when I would put up a boundary. But when they put up a boundary, I was able to respect it. I didn't understand that. And because I didn't know people, I didn't know relationships, I thought that meant I did something wrong. I didn't see it as they did something wrong. I've been taught my whole life it means you did something wrong. So it literally took going through this terrible relationship, and then on top of that terrible friendship, my friendship, that helped me get out of the relationship, that ended badly because, again, it was dysfunctional. I got to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, that was really fucking bad. And I don't like it. And I don't want this to continue. So I had to literally kind of isolate myself for a little bit, figure out myself, which is really hard when you're a single parent. But I knew I absolutely did not want to end up in that situation again. Absolutely not.
Let's first of all, Desiree be dropping gems, dropping gems, if I can talk today. Desiree said, I've been taught what being a human looks like. Exactly. Who is teaching you what being a human looks like? And do you want to follow their blueprint? Because again, when you're single, what is society teaching you about being a single woman in this society? Think about that. Okay. And let's see, I've been writing down questions. Okay, so first of all, let's get to the good part now.
Yeah.
And then I have some tangible tips that I wrote down that I want to give you that can maybe move you in the direction of setting clearer boundaries, especially if you struggle with that. So my first question for you, Des, is how long was that marriage? How long have you been divorced? And then I know you're in a happy, healthy relationship now. So let's kind of do a timeline. Okay. Yeah.
So I was married I was with my ex from the ages of 19 until about 23. And then, we had 2 kids together, so not a very long relationship. And then from 23 until 31, I was single, like no boyfriends. I went on a couple of dates. Through that 6.5 years or so, I was celibate for about 3.5 of those years, 2.5 years, and then I fumbled up, and then again for another year. And I chose celibacy because I needed clarity.
Okay, I'm glad. Okay,
It wasn't a religious decision for me. It was the coochie's cloudy. Like she doesn't think right.
We need to clean her up a little bit.
She doesn't know.
Right.
And it confuses you. And so I needed time just to focus on me. And I literally spent that 3 years researching relationships because I didn't understand them. I that's what I do when I don't know something. I just research it. So I researched relationships. I researched emotions, being single, trauma, all of that. I went to therapy. I did all of this work. It was super hard. I went to school. I started doing things that I love again.
Yeah.
I started setting more boundaries with people, and I lost people. Yeah. I did. And you have to be okay with that because you need to understand. I recognize when I set a boundary and I say, this is a standard for me. If you want to be in a relationship with me, this is the floor. Yeah. If they keep trying to go drop that and they're not listening to me and they're not respecting my boundaries, and I had to do this with my family.
Yeah.
I had to say, this is my standard. You are not allowed to talk down to me. You are not allowed to ignore me. You are not allowed to talk down to my children. Yep. You are not allowed to do these things. This was my boundary. Yeah. They kept ignoring my boundary. And so a year before, I said, if you keep doing this, I will not come over again. I'm going to give you some time.
And this to your family.
To my family. Yep. I want you, because I know how hard it is to set boundaries. But it was a very basic, be nice. That was my boundary. Be nice. Be nice to me. If you have a problem, communicate it, but healthy. Like, you don't have to put people down to communicate. Right. And I gave them about a year. I asked them to go to therapy. Like, let's go through this journey together. They were not down. They did not want to do that, which is okay. That's their choice. So then they kept crossing that boundary. Yep. And so I finally said, okay, you know what? I told you guys, I warned you. I've decided this is the point where I'm done waiting. Yeah. You're not trying. So this boundary that I set, I'm now going to honor that. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to talk to you anymore until you go to therapy. So of course they were upset, but I set that boundary because the minute you cave and you let them dictate it, now this is the standard now.
Right. So I want to we have to get to a point where somebody else's feelings and how they're going to react to us doesn't matter, because it is in your boundaries where you show yourself that you love yourself.
Yes. When
you're not setting boundaries, you are pissing all over yourself. That's what you're doing. Shout out to F Examined. I believe that's your Twitter name. I don't know if you're a he or she or non-binary. They say this is so good. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you're watching. So
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't want anyone to think that, like, because they will say anything and everything to make you feel bad about it. Well, I tried. I can't. You're not giving me a da-da-da-da-da. Here's the thing. You set the boundary. You told them, this is what I expect. This is what I want. they made the choice.
Yeah.
That was their choice.
Yeah.
They knew what was going to happen. They did it anyway. So if you're telling a guy, okay, you cheated. Well, let's figure out this problem together. Let's work through it together. You cheated. I've decided I'm going to give you one more shot. Let's talk about this. Let's work through this.
Yeah.
Let's say you do that. He cheats again. You have told him, if you do this, I'm leaving. He did it. You need to leave. And he'll do anything and everything to tell you all of the reasons why, blah, blah, blah. It's irrelevant. You set a boundary. He crossed it. Here we go. Like, I don't get mad at my boyfriend when he crosses a boundary that I never told him about. But once I tell him and I set that boundary and he crosses it, then we have a problem. It's always their choice. I always make it their choice because, like, it's not fair to them if they're crossing a boundary I never established. Right. But if they cross a boundary that I set, then I don't feel bad when I go ahead and follow through on the consequences.
What you said, what the terms and conditions were. Listen, so, and what I hear Desiree saying is you teach people how to treat you.
Yes.
That's facts. That is law. That is human law. This is not something we can work around. This is not something that isn't true. Whether you believe it or not, you teach people how to treat you. Yes. So once you say, if you do this again, or I don't like this, and they do it again, you have to then leave. Because so in the context of boy-girl relationship, romantic relationship, right? The problem lies in this, right? This is where you're forgetting that you're allowed to set a boundary. This is where fantasy sets in, because when you set the boundary and let's say they do walk all over you and you just let it go, it's because you want the story. You're so in this fantasy of, but he has to be the one. Why? Do you know how many men are on this planet? And also, why do you have to be in a relationship? And this is not knocking relationships. I think relationships are beautiful when they're healthy. That's our natural desire, to be in a relationship, but it is not God's will for you to be in a relationship where his son is abusing you. That's not biblical. Please show me in the Bible where it says that love is abusive. It's not. It's actually easier than we allow it to be, because what we're doing, right, it's so much easier. But what we're doing is we're out here dating somebody's son who hasn't done any of the healing, any of the processing, any of the learning himself. And then we're trying to force him to be this guy that we want when he is showing you with his actions that he is not. And what you're doing while you diminish your standards is you are actually proving to yourself that you're not the woman you want to be. Because again, remember when I said, if I asked you at 15, what kind of relationship do you want? Of course you would say healthy. I want him to love me, blah, blah, blah. What type of woman do you want to be? I want to be a woman that stands up for herself. I want to set boundaries, blah, blah, blah. Well, you had an opportunity to do that in these dysfunctional relationships you are in, and you're not doing it. So you're not her. And what did we talk about on Monday? When I was talking about this, I said, when you ask me, Rika, how do I get over a guy? I said, well, first you have to face the woman that you were in that relationship. You have to face her. You have to face the woman that you were while you were in that relationship.
I have something. I have something on this. So I think this is just a theory, but I think one of the reasons why when we get into dysfunctional relationships, whether you come from a healthy household or a dysfunctional one, we've been told our whole lives, treat others the way you want to be treated. We've been told our whole lives, you get what you deserve. So we assume when someone is treating us badly, that I must deserve it because I've been told my whole life, you get what you deserve. That's karma. This must be karmic, but it's not true. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you accept, period. That is the truth. So it's not that you were bad and that's why he treated you like that way. He treated you bad because you accepted it.
Yeah.
And you said, that's okay for me. So then now you have this totally skewed version of, you thought you were one thing. Or so either You thought you were one thing, and he showed you that you're something different, and now you're having an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Or you already felt that way about yourself, and he's confirming it.
Yeah.
Whether it's like dysfunctional families that you grew up with or functional.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what my brain thinks, you know. I don't know.
Well, so I'll add this too. My mic. We also think, and this was me. So, and those are my dogs. They are barking at the wind. Yay. Okay. This is what I thought too, especially if you grew up in a Christian household. Excuse me. I didn't want to burp on camera. Sorry. That's gross. Oh my God, girls don't burp. Yes, we do. We poop too. So we also think that is I felt like this is how Nicole, I had her on this platform, I want to say like 3 weeks ago. And I asked her if she felt the same way. And I like the way that she put it. So I'll say the way she put it. She felt that it was her duty to stay with him because she was Christian. And this is what God wants me to do because we're supposed to forgive. Right. Like a test. And we're supposed to forgive and give him grace. Here's the thing. Forgiveness does not mean stay. Nor is the definition of forgiveness is not doormat. The definition of forgiveness is not stay. Forgiveness has everything to do with your heart and cleaning out your heart. It has nothing to do with, well, I have to endure this suffering because this is love. God already do that. Didn't we just celebrate Easter?
Yeah.
He already did that for us. So this idea of suffering love, we have to get this out of our mind.
I have a good one.
Yeah, I will tell you this, like the people that I have cut out of my life, that I set boundaries with and they didn't honor it. I have forgiven them and I have grace for them because part of my healing was trying to understand where they're coming from. So I can understand why you're doing the things you do. That does not mean that I'm going to allow you to work through your shit through me.
Yeah.
Figure your shit out.
Yeah.
And then when you, like my boyfriend, I'm talking, like one of my relatives keeps messaging me and saying very toxic things. And I'm like, oh, it just brings me down every time. But I haven't blocked her, and I haven't blocked anyone except for one person.
Yeah.
And I haven't like changed my number or anything. And he's like, why not just be done with it? And I'm like, I have grace and I have forgiveness, but I want to leave that door open because I believe that people can change and they can heal and we can get there. But like, I don't want to talk to them until they get there. But I want to leave the door open because I do have grace and forgiveness. But that does not, I still have to protect me because I'm not helping anyone by letting other people drag me down, especially for me, my children.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let them go through that. And there's one thing that my father said to me that was like, for me, the fire under my butt to literally kick them out of my life. It was, I told my dad, hey, you know, your wife, my stepmom, she's hurting me. The things she says are super hurtful. It hurts me. And I hate it. You know, I don't know why. And he goes, oh, Desi, cut it out. Like, you know, she treated her mom or her mom treated her like that. She's treating you like that. And you're going to treat your daughter like that. That's just how it goes. And I was like, that for me was like, absolutely not. Like, they know they're dysfunctional. My family has literally said, we know we were abusive. We know we were, but you know what? Like, it's your job as our daughter to forgive us. That's what and I'm adopted. So then I had the pressure of, you know what, it could be worse and you should just be grateful for what they have done. And so that kept me in the dysfunctional relationship for that long because like, I don't want to be ungrateful. They gave me a whole new life. You know, like, I don't want to be ungrateful. Like, this is better, you know. But what I told them, and I'll say this just one last thing real quick, that I told them my real mom gave birth to me. And that did not give her what is it called? The right or the
privilege.
What is the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. That did not give her
the
power, the audacity.
Well, the right or whatever. It didn't give her the right to treat me like that.
Yeah.
There's no free pass.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I chose to end that relationship when I was 12. My adopted family, you know, well, my husband, I chose him. I chose him for my life. That didn't give him the right to treat me that way.
Right.
And my adopted family, yes, they adopted me, and I'm so grateful for that. But that did not give them the right to treat me that way. Just because you do something nice doesn't mean you have a free pass now to do all these terrible things.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think it's just
again, really sad that somebody can say that to you, like, well, her mom did this, whatever, and you'll do it to your daughter. You can know you're dysfunctional, but not know how to get out of that, because again, who's teaching this stuff, right?
Yeah.
How do you get this lesson? So I just want somebody hearing this, regardless if you come from a dysfunctional family, you've had dysfunctional relationships with men before, or you're in one right now, it can get better if you do the work. But you have to be willing to do the scary thing and leave. And I know that it is scary to walk away from situations, because a lot of us don't like uncharted territory. We don't like things we don't know about, right? But trust me, it is better on the other side.
It is.
And don't you worry if you're wondering, like, okay, Rika, you're right. I want a healthy relationship and I want to stop the cycle of dysfunctional relationship, but where do I start? We're going to tell you where to start. But I just want to get to the last point of Desiree's story as it is today, April 21st, 2021. But first, shout out to Facebook user who says, in my opinion, family is worse because they feel like they can treat you any old kind of way because you're family. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for watching. Right now, your name to me is Facebook user, because this video on Facebook, you have to go to the description, click the link that says, give Rika permission to see your name or something like that. She's going live on StreamYard, give her permission. So you're gonna have to click that link for me to see your name. Otherwise, I can call you Facebook user all night. I don't mind. I just want you to know, if you're like, why should you call me Facebook user? That's why. So if you want me to see your name, you're gonna have to go to that link. Again, it's in the description of this video. The video that you're watching, just look up and be like, oh, there's the description, and click the link, okay? All right, so you said something, and I wrote it down. I'm glad I had the notes. You said that when you got into that marriage after leaving your relationship, that at that time you were thinking you needed to be with somebody that went through trauma like you did.
Yes.
Well, I know your boyfriend. Anthony Imbernoni comes from a 2-parent household like I do. We are very
together since like 13.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, they've been together. His parents been together since they were 13. So when we're growing up in this 2-parent household situation, ignorance is bliss. We're very happy, joyful. Parents are nice to us. So how, I guess one of the things that I want to know, because we don't have time to unpack the whole relationship, but what was different about him, and how quickly were you able to set boundaries? Because he used to be a self-proclaimed F-boy.
Yes.
And I know his stories because he actually used to be my co-host on the morning show here where I live doing radio. And so I've heard, and I was actually very scared when you guys got together, but I was like, I'm not the person who inserts my opinion unless asked. And I know you guys were like, how do you feel about it? And I was like, listen, if this is what you want, we gonna see. And so far so good.
Yeah,
you guys made it a year. Yeah, like I'm like, okay, because what I didn't want is for him to be the way he was with other women for you. Even if you guys don't work out, I will never be like, well, he was an F-boy to you.
Yeah.
No, I think this is a very healthy relationship, and it doesn't mean that means it's gonna work out. I mean, I hope it does, you know what I mean? But not every relationship has to end in turmoil and not cussing people out.
Yeah.
But I was afraid of that, like at first. Now I'm not afraid. So anyway, back to the question.
That is such a good question. So because I actually asked myself this recently.
Yeah.
But I honestly, with Anthony, I didn't try to make him not be a fuckboy. I literally think it was like, I think I just told him, you know, I'm not going to tell you not to cheat because you're a full-grown man And if you're going to cheat on me, fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather you cheat on me so I can just be done with this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I do not try to dictate learn from them. Like, watch them, learn from them those first couple of weeks and months into the relationship. I went and met his family. I went all the way to Detroit. I met his family. I met his friends. I wanted to see how he'd interact with them. I listened to the word, like what he was saying. I wanted to know who is this person? Like, how can I trust him? Because it's hard to distinguish in the early stages of a relationship the difference between love bombing because you're with a narcissist and love, like real love. So I remember telling him, well, and I asked him, why me? Like, why did you be different with me? And he said, when he lost his job during the pandemic.
Right.
And early on. And I had just lost and this was like early stages. And we were really vibing. Like we were really into each other. But when he found out, I was like, oh gosh, okay, he's moving back. He told me he was moving back. I went over to his house.
Moving back to Detroit.
To Detroit.
Right. And we live in Washington State.
Yeah. And that's where his family's from. And I was like, that makes sense that he's moving back. Right. I was sad, but I was like, I don't want to interrupt his life process. 100%. And I don't want to end up with the wrong person. Right. Because that'll interrupt my life process. So if he's moving, cool, that's fine. So I went to his house and I wanted to show him a good time for his last night. So we just had fun. We hung out and we stayed up all night talking. And I never asked him to stay. Yeah. I never told him not to cheat. I never asked him I never asked him to stay. I never told him how to be. I just observed him and I love him for who he is. And like, if someone's going to cheat, if someone's going to act a fool, you want them to do it. You want them to show you who they are. It's not your job to police their actions. It's their job to. I just set the boundaries. And I'm like, well, you can cheat. I'm going to leave you. Well, you can talk bad to me. I'm going to leave you. Like, I'm not going to allow that. And he knew it. He knew it right away. He literally looked at me like terrified, like the first week or 2 weeks. And he goes, oh, I can't play games with you. And I was like, well, you can, but it's not going to work. Do whatever you want, man. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to be. And so I think that was the big difference. And also for me personally with Anthony, I am very like guarded. Like, I'm a very open person, but I'm a very guarded person. So there's parts of my life that I don't let anyone in. No one has ever met my children that I've ever been on, like, dated. Yeah. He was the first one. And I'm very guarded with things that I care about. But Anthony is so over the top, raw, open. Like, there is no shame in this kid. If it exists, I've never seen it. And it made me feel so comfortable. Yeah. Which was what allowed us to bond without that trauma bond. Yes. He was just so open and loving and accepting. And I feel bad sometimes because I have PTSD. So sometimes something so simple like tickling me will trigger my PTSD. And I feel terrible. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he's just so calm. Yeah. And he's like, it's okay. I'm here. I'm sorry. Like, so understanding. He respects my boundaries. And that's how I really knew this is the guy for me, because he respects my boundaries. And it could be something silly like tickling. Hey, yo, that triggers me. Please don't do it. Yeah. But it also takes me being able to, because PTSD literally sends you back into the frame of mind you were when the abuse was happening. So it takes me having to be self-aware enough to understand that this is what's happening and communicate that to him so that I'm not just reacting out of emotion and he's not just reacting back. And that's one of the things he told me too. He goes, oh no, I've had girlfriends who have PTSD. They just didn't know it. So they'd scream at me about some random thing. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. You're the first person to actually give me a reason of why you're acting the way you're acting. So I understand and I don't take it personal. Because that's where we get like combative, is when we take things personal.
Well, and so I wrote some notes. So women can be toxic too. And so I want you to know that Single You Academy, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. So it's not about me I'm not a dating coach, first of all. I'm a boundaries coach. And I make women face themselves. Like I have had, I mean, the conversations I have with my clients. I mean, one told me I have broken a generational curse. One told me that I made her face things that she's never had to face. And because we do the deep work, this is not about, well, I'm just gonna spend time. Ugh, I hate this. Okay. It's not about this. Oh my God, I'm bitter. I hate guys, whatever. I'm just going to be by myself. And all you do is work and sit at home and watch Netflix. That's not the life I want for you either. If you want, again, if you have that desire to date, I want you to. If you have that desire to have a husband, I want you to. I just want it to be healthy. But you got to want that too. And you have to do more work than just getting off of work and sitting at home watching Netflix, Netflix, thinking that's self-care.
That's escapism.
That's escapism. Exactly. Ooh, that's, say that again for the people in the back. Just let me, hold on. Let's mute.
I will speak on this because I can tell you from experience, even though I'm a nice person and I view myself as a nice person, I was toxic because I didn't understand my own emotions and where they were coming from and how it affected other people. The people it affected the most were the people I cared about the most, my children. Because you think that you're not repeating generational stuff because you're not doing the things like verbatim that your family did, but you are repeating. Because if your foundation of knowledge, everything you know about being a human has been built on a bad foundation, anything you build on top of that is broken. And it was so hard to look at myself and say, okay, yes, I have reasons why I am the way I am and why I'm hurting. And I'm recognizing that what they did was wrong, but also recognizing the patterns I'm repeating and fixing those and building a new foundation. You can't build a new foundation without having something to replace it with. So it's one thing to know that it's wrong and it's broken. It's another thing to fix it. And it's really, really hard, but it's so good on the other side.
Yeah.
It's so, I literally sometimes will just start crying because I didn't know this was possible.
Yeah.
I remember being a little girl, I'm going to start crying, and thinking every bad thing that happened to me, I thought I was stacking up points for when I was a grown-up.
Yeah.
So if my friends had good things happening and I had bad things happening, I thought, oh, I feel really bad for them because I'm stacking up points. And someday I'm going to be a grown-up and I'm going to have an amazing life because I got all my suffering done early.
Yeah.
And now that I'm an adult, when I became an adult and I got out on my own and the same stuff was still happening, I was like, oh my gosh, why? Like I had such a, like, it was so hard. Like, why is it still hard? It literally, and it sucks. It sucks that somebody else can do this damage to you and you're the only one who can fix it.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, you have to do the work if you want the happy ending. You can choose not to do the work because it's really hard facing the fact that you're not the perfect person you think you are. You're not just the victim. Yeah. You're also somebody else's, abuser. And I'm not saying that I was super abusive to my kids or anything. I'm just saying I wasn't the best parent I have the capacity of being.
You weren't emotionally there at first because you didn't know how to be.
Yeah. And I would see my daughter who's autistic and I didn't know she was autistic. So when she would act a certain way, I would freak out. When we were home alone or when we were like with my friends, I felt fine. But when she was in public, like with my parents or around people that I knew cared about, whether your kids were acting a certain way, dressed a certain way, I would force her into situations that would literally put her into meltdowns because I didn't know her. I didn't know me. Yeah. I didn't know how to be a parent. I didn't know how to be a human, like a healthy one. So, I mean,
I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm not crying, you're crying, and I love you so freaking much. And I know we've had this conversation before. Yeah. And as I told you, the Bible does talk about, I'll give you beauty for your ashes. So you even thinking that as a little girl to have that wherewithal that, yeah, kind of, it's true. Mm-hmm. Like God says that, like this suffering that you went through, trust me, it's all going to work out for your good if you do the work though, because the Bible also says faith without works is dead. Right. Yeah. And so TD Jakes, says this a lot. Like the older generation, they just thought we just pray it away. Oh Lord, please do this for me. Please, Lord, do this for me. Please, Lord, please, Lord. But you ain't doing no work to fix yourself. It is on the other side. You just have to do the work. And like you said, you can choose to not do it. But what is it costing you?
Yeah.
I see there's a few people watching. What is it costing you to not do the work? To not figure out who you are? To not stop the cycle of dysfunctional relationships? To not have a good, clear understanding of what makes the difference between a healthy hard versus abusive versus dysfunctional? What is it costing you to not do the work? What is it? Peace, joy, you, money, staying in a cycle of trauma. Like Ellen said, clarity of mind. What's up, Ellen?
Clarity of mind. That's a good one.
Yes, because you're in this fog, right? So let's get to, I want to recap what we talked about, right? So I wrote down some tangible steps that you can take, okay? I want you need to know how you want to be treated and set a boundary. Do you feel like after you got out of that relationship and you on your celibacy journey and being single for 7 years, that's when you were cultivating this life of knowing what you wanted and the boundaries you wanted to set, right? Do you feel like that's what you were doing in that time, as well as a lot of things as well?
Yeah, definitely. I really wanted to curate my life. I wanted to be happy for like the first time in my life. I've never been like just truly happy, because I was always living in somebody else's dysfunction. And so like once I got clear, like, and that's the truth, right? When you are in an abusive relationship, when you're in any sort of abusive relationship, you are literally living in someone else's dysfunction. They are trying to work through their trauma through you, and it's like a ripple effect. So if you have to get all those people out of the way, because you cannot see clearly when you have all these dysfunctional relationship people pulling you into all these different directions. I needed clarity. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. And so I needed that. And I just started doing that. I just started creating a safe space for myself. You have to create a safe space for myself. My home had to be that spot. My work had to be that spot. I am not someone who can handle dysfunctional relationships. I know that. Some people can. I can't. So I started learning what I could handle and what I couldn't. And that's why it took me so long. It took me 6.5 years, because I had to put things into practice, and I had to build it. I had to like break it down, build it up, break it down, build it up. And, almost do like social experiments. And I got to such a good place where I could set boundaries with anyone. I just categorize people now. I can have a relationship with anyone. You just have to know what type of relationship you can have. But you have to know yourself before you can do any of that.
Absolutely. And so before we get into all of the details about Single You Academy, because I know you've heard us say, where do you go to learn this, right? If you want to be a doctor, okay, well, I need to go to med school. But first I need to finish high school. Then I think there's like pre-med and then med school. If you want to be a lawyer, like you can track it, right? Like, okay, these are the things that I need to do to be this. But where do you go when you want to be in love? Where do you go when you want to learn about yourself? Where do you go when you want to learn the difference between healthy hard versus dysfunctional? And we're going to talk about that. But before we get into all of that, is there anything that we missed?
There's one thing I thought of when you were talking about that, finding love.
So finding love, and we talked about this last time, and it's just a little thing I wanted to say. There is such a big difference between like in a dysfunctional relationship, love looks like two people saying, no, I need love. No, I need love. It's a I need love, lack. It's a lack. When you say this. A lack of love, and so you're requiring it from everybody else. But when you're a healthy person and you know yourself, you are so full of love. I am so full of love. every single day. It is literally overflowing. And Anthony and I have this little thing where it's like, when I'm feeling depleted, I will tell him, I need you to fill up my tank. And he will start cuddling me. He'll do something nice for me. And sometimes he'll do it just randomly. He'll start like, he'll just do something nice for me. Or he'll give me lots of extra cuddles and kisses. And I'll be like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm filling up your tank, you know? And it's such a mutually beneficial thing because we fill up each other's tanks and then it's just overflowing and we just have so much love for each other. And that's what a healthy relationship looks like. It's like, I have so much extra love. Let me give it to you. Yeah. And then, but then when you're in a dysfunctional, you're both so depleted of love that you're just like, I can literally remember what it feels like to be exhausted and depleted and just longing for that feeling of love. And nobody's capable of giving it to you because everybody else is depleted too.
Yeah. And it's that. No, you're fine. You're longing for this love, wishing you could get it from him. And he's not the one. He has shown you it's not. It's not him, boo boo.
Love. You're a healthy person, and they need the love, and they see it, and they just start siphoning
and they just
and they
suck
never
it out
fill
of you.
Back up.
Yep. And if you're watching this either now or in the replay, you've seen my water video where I have the two jugs, mason jars, one full of water and one not, and you're the empty one because you done gave all your water to the dude. Yeah, I've talked about that before. I love when you say that because the people who are hurting you, they are actually really hurt. And I understand that. And I like how you said that earlier. I can understand that and not be with you and wish you well. I wish my abusive ex love and light.
I feel bad.
I feel bad for them.
Yeah. Instead
of thinking, well, it's my duty to help them. You know, I don't think that anymore. I just love and light, you not for me, boo. I only deal with people on a friendship level, family, and of course, romantic when I ever decide to date again, with people who are doing the work.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the work, we're not having, why are we talking?
Yeah. Let me know when you're ready.
Let me know when you're ready. Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, family, friends, romantic partners. That blood thing, well, we're blood and there go my dogs. That blood thing where we're blood. So we're just supposed to be around each other all the time. Nope. I don't believe in that. Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to recap some spots. And of course you can chime in if you want to, Des, but obviously we were talking about boundaries today. Okay. And the tangible step that we were talking about that you can take today is knowing how you want to be treated and set that boundary and hold it. But you have to know how you want to be treated. And that comes from knowing who you are, okay? So how do you take that step to make that decision, to figure that out? You got to ask yourself, do I deserve better than what he's giving me? What I ask myself now in every situation, is this God's best for me? Or is he looking at me like, daughter, I got something a little bit better for you. So I'm going to need you to set a boundary. Ask yourself that. Is this man God's best for me? Okay. And so if you say, hold on. So I'm looking at my notes. And if you ask yourself that question and you're feeling like, well, I don't know, or no, let me tell you that God has better for you. I'm calling you to a higher woman. I'm calling you to a higher place. But if you don't believe it, it's because you don't know who you are and you haven't done the work. Okay. And if you say yes, great. So what do you need to do to execute that boundary? Do you need to speak up for yourself? Because men are not mind readers. Do you need to hold yourself accountable? Okay. This is how you set a boundary. You set it and leave it. And then when somebody tries to, like Des said, come under here, nope. We only deal up here. What was that quote you said? Imagine if women, do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine a world where women held men to higher standards. I mean, we got the cookie. you know, and like we're their mothers, we're their wives, we give them life. Like if we held them to a higher standard collectively, the only power they have is by making us think that we have to do or be a certain way to not be brutalized, to not be, you know, to end up having a husband, to do that. They somehow have power over us, but that's not true. If we hold ourselves to a higher standard, if we hold them to a higher standard, we can literally change the world. This 100%. Is how we do it. 100%. We don't do it through war. We don't do it through, you know, capitalism or any of that. You do it through communication. I want to say it's Albert Einstein who said that peace is achieved through communication and understanding, not war. And that goes for you, inner peace. It goes for peace, harmony in your home, harmony in your community. We just got to raise these men to a higher standard, because I guarantee you, once no woman will touch them and no woman will talk to them, they'll have no choice.
Right, because men need us.
Yeah.
They need us.
More than we need them.
Right, 100%. So listen, you can change your whole life, your whole household by setting boundaries. So let's talk about Single You Academy, because again, where do you go if you want to figure out who you are? And let me pull this up real quick and do this. So if you are watching on Instagram, sorry, you're not going to be able to see my screen, but of course I'm going to talk you through it. And I'm going to take the last 10 minutes to talk about this. And of course, we'll thank Des for coming in today. But okay, so this is my mindset. And this is what I teach in Single You Academy. Okay. Are you ready to, I'm looking at you in your eyeball. Are you ready to stop the cycle of dysfunctional relationships by learning how to set clear, hard boundaries through discovering who you are? Are you ready for that? Because what is it costing you to not know the difference between healthy versus unhealthy? What is it costing you to not know who you are? What's the cost? Okay, so step one in Single You Academy, I teach you this 4-frame mindset. Okay, you got to know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, all of your relationships are going to suck, for lack of a better word. So I wanted to find other Christian women to connect. This was a DM that I got from a young lady, and I love the way that she worded it. She said, when I looked through your website, I saw that if I wanted to go from just cognitively knowing I deserved better to actually changing my behavior so I would be treated better, I reached out. I want to bridge the gap between reading affirmations and living them, because there's a difference. You talked about that, Des. There's a difference between, well, I know I deserve better, and then actually executing that. Because again, you know when you're being treated like crap, you do. But how do you stop it? Because it's not enough to be like, well, I think I love myself, or I love myself, and then you actually don't. Because it is in your boundaries that you show yourself that you love yourself. Okay? All right. So this is a graduate of Single You Academy, and she says, Rika, he did it again. But this time when he decided to stop speaking to me, I didn't reach out. It's been about a month now that I haven't spoken to him. Not only have I been at peace, but I realized how stressful talking to him was, because I didn't want to say or do the wrong thing to make him mad at me. How many of you can say that? Well, I don't set boundaries because I don't want him to leave. Well, I don't set boundaries because I don't want him to get upset. Girl, I love making men upset. That's like my favorite hobby right now. Right. Show me who you are. When I set this boundary, you are going to show me exactly your character. Here is another member of Single You Academy. She says, superficially, when a person hears Single You Academy, people were looking at me like, what? You paid that for what? I could have taught you. No, they couldn't, because you weren't going to push me to the level of Single You Academy, by which literally doors started unlocking and helping me to have the strength to walk through. SYA is definitely helpful, and it is worth every penny. It truly is. That's beautiful. How much would you pay for this transformation? Because what your friends are going to tell you is, girl, just get over it. Girl, just to get over one man, get under another. Girl, just spend time with yourself. But what does that mean when you're spending time with yourself? What are you actually doing? to change your behavior. All right. So remember my 4-step framework. Know who you are so you can know what you want. And number 3 is have the audacity to believe that you can get it. Because you know what you want. Again, if I asked you, do you want a healthy relationship or unhealthy? You would say healthy. How do you get it though? And you need to have the audacity to believe that you can get it so you don't settle at 35 or 32 like I did. One sec, gonna talk to my dogs. Thor, champ, go, go. They're just being loud. Okay. You need to have the audacity to believe that you can get the healthy relationship so you don't settle when you find yourself 5 years in of being single or what have you, and you're like, I don't want to be single. And then you just go for every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes next. Because there's always going to be guys. There's not a lack of guys. But it's the good one that you want, the one that's right for you, right? So this is another graduate of Single You Academy, and I love this one. This is the one that you actually talked to. And she says, I've gone on a couple of dates and have had about 6 guys texting me. And my friend said, Sarah, you have a choice, so choose one. She said, I did. I chose myself. Because at the end of the day, these guys are not the guys for me, and they are looking for a piece of ass. And my ass is so small, I can't share with them. This is for my husband, and until that happens, I'll continue choosing myself. She then hugged me and prayed that God will lead me in the path to meet my husband. And so listen, Single You Academy is not about teaching you how to be celibate. That's not even the journey that I teach you. I'm celibate, I'm 2.5 years in, but I'm not here to make you me. I'm here to hold you accountable to the things that you say that you want. And what you want is to stop the cycle of dysfunctional relationships, right? Okay. So step 4, the patience to wait for it. Okay. So my 4-step framework that I teach inside Single You Academy is I help you know who you are so you can know what you want, have the audacity to believe that you can get it, and the patience to wait for it. So this is my cousin Shanice. She actually, this is not a picture of her, but she actually is getting married on Juneteenth, going to her wedding. And this was a beautiful quote that she said to me because she did wait. She did her journey. She was actually celibate. And when she met her husband and they were dating, or her soon-to-be husband, whatever, she said, Ja'Cory made me realize how much I settled in the past. What I learned is the right person will make you realize that. We don't argue. We don't fuss. He lets me live my life and he lives his life. And when I'm out with my girlfriends, I don't feel like, oh my God, I have to text him and check in. How many of you feel like you had to check in with your boyfriends or your current boyfriend?
Anthony hasn't even, he logged in, but he didn't end up.
Right. He's not like, where you at? Exactly. My boyfriend was always clocking me. Am I abusive ex?
I told him I would be home 30 minutes ago.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm keeping you
Like,
late.
he doesn't care.
Right. Right. All right. So again, what is it costing you? Because I don't want you to be a bitter woman either, thinking, oh, all men are bad. All men are not trash. They're not. And I don't want you to hold on to that. That's not good for you. That's literally not good for your health.
If you exist, he exists.
Yeah. I like that. If you exist, he exists. If you didn't hear Des say that. So how much is it costing you to hold on to all that pain from previous relationships? How much is it costing you? What is it costing you to continue to be in the revolving door of dysfunctional relationships? Peace, joy, money. What is it costing you to be in that revolving door? And it's the revolving door with the same guy that you continue to let back in, or a different guy, but the same kind of relationship. Because how many times have you written off dudes? Oh my God, I'm never dating again. To let the same guy back in 2 weeks, 2 months later, or a different guy, but the same kind of relationship. What is it costing you to never learn what a healthy relationship is? Do you know the difference between healthy hard and abusive? Healthy hard and dysfunction? Do you actually know the difference? What is it costing you? Joy, peace, self-confidence, again, money. Here's another client of mine, and she said, in the little time I've been here, I feel so supported in my single journey, embracing my singleness with confidence, embracing my pain and growing through it, embracing my budget and goals. Rika really allowed me to confront the traditional thoughts of our society around relationships and embrace me, the real me, that's not attached to a man or a ring.
so good.
Right. I'm just here to help you face yourself, boo-boo. Because who's going to make you face yourself? If you don't know where to start, I got you. So maybe you're like, Rika, I definitely want to stop the cycle of dysfunctional relationships. I definitely want to learn how to set boundaries. And I definitely want to know who I am. Then let me introduce you to Single You Academy. Because what life would you choose? A, B, or C? Would you say, I want to continue to be in dysfunctional relationships? Or B, I want to never date again out of fear? Or C, I want to live my life truly happy, single, and date from a seat of truly knowing myself and my worth? I do like the fact that you said, and I've heard another friend of mine say this, when she met her now husband and you meeting Anthony, you weren't afraid. Like, you're just like, okay, I know myself. I know this, whatever. If you're going to cheat, then whatever, we'll just break up. And it wasn't like, oh, if we break up, then my world ends.
Still to this day, if it were to end, my world would end.
Yeah.
I'd be sad, but it wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. You can be sad. I would be like, why are you not sad about this? I would be worried.
Yeah.
But thinking your world ends because a relationship ends with a man, I don't want that for us anymore. I don't want that, right? So if you chose C, then you're ready to work on you. Single You Academy, the only online course and community for the ambitious millennial single woman who wants better when it comes to the quality of her life and the quality of the man she dates. Okay? In my 12-week program, you will learn how to stop tying your identity and worth to men. You will learn the differences between healthy versus unhealthy relationships. You will transform from a woman trying to prove her worth to be loved by a man. Prove her worth to be loved by a man. Raise your hand if you've done that before. Transform you into a woman who finally knows her worth, who you are, what you want, and knows how to say no. All right, here's one more testimonial from a graduate. It's been extremely helpful just having the information and now understanding, like you said earlier, we don't know how to date. We don't know about relationships. A lot of times our parents don't tell us these things. It's not talked about, and we try to emulate what we see. But sometimes it's bad behavior in the relationships that we are looking at as, okay, well, we'll just deal with certain things. And now I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I'm just constantly quoting things from Single You to her. So the generational curse, this is what I was talking about, that was put in me as far as what I saw my parents do and thought it was okay. She's going to be in a better place because we're already starting to talk about intentional dating. Like, there's no time for what I did. I dated stupid, and I didn't even know it was stupid. So how do you join Single You Academy? Well, you can type I'm in the chat here on Facebook. On Instagram, you're going to have to DM me because once the video's over, I don't see your comments anymore. So you're going to have to send me a DM on Instagram if you want more information on Single You Academy. Okay. Because I'm running. I only told Des an hour and we've already an hour and a half. So I'm like running out of time. So if you need more information on Single You Academy, I want you to type I'm in the chat or send me a DM if you are here on Facebook. Okay. Again, it's a 12-week program and I know you're like, how much? So let me get to that slide. You're going to get more videos. And oh, there we go. 3 monthly payments of $335. You pay in full for $997. And that is for the 12-week program.
Worth every single penny.
Thank you. Which means I'm your coach, you're the client, and we walk through these steps to help you stop the cycle of dysfunctional relationships. Okay? To help you set clear and hard boundaries and for you to face you, for you to know you. So if you are in, whether you're watching this on the replay or right now, type I'm in the chat, and then I'll send you a DM and I'll send you more information. And also the doors close on the 25th. So Sunday the 25th, the doors will close for this opening of Single You Academy, and they won't open again for a while, and the price will be more than that $997. Trust me, it's going to be a lot more than that $997. Doors close April 25th. So if you would like to join Single You Academy, go ahead and type I'm in the chat or send me a DM here on Instagram, okay? All right, Des, I want to thank you so much for coming on Single You the podcast live. Yay! Any last words? And then we'll be done.
Just thank you.
Yay!
It was great.
All right. All right. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Okay. Bye. And